Entrepreneur, a podcast show series
sponsored by Frequency Event Promotions, entertainment, experience, and event reality.
Welcome to the I Am an Entrepreneur podcast. This is the conversations that we will be bringing to you to a YouTube channel near you.
My name is Joseph Jose Bonsu. I'm a freelance illustrator and co-founder of Heroes of the World, Inc., and I am an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship, it's a journey. It's a whole journey, man. A good one. Scary, but it's a good journey. And I hope everybody gets to experience that.
Hi there, my name is Shirley Joseph. I am the co-founder of the Chonilla Network. It is a podcast collective and new media company. Entrepreneurship for me comes from passion, comes from a lot of dedication and hard work. But I don't feel like that when you love what you do. And I am an entrepreneur.
Hi, my name is Mark Williams. I'm a co-founder of Heroes of the World, Inc., one of the co-founders, with my friend over there, Joe Jose Bonsu. We also own another company called Hot W Studios, Inc. And what I believe in entrepreneurship is taking something that never been created and creating something new so other people can work. And you learn from them, and goes back and forth as well. And I am an entrepreneur.
So my name is Camille Smith. I'm the founder of Fitness IQ Services, where I help people become financially fit. And when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's all about helping people solve problems that they need and also creating financial freedom for myself and others as well. And I am an entrepreneur.
I am Elizabeth Taylor. I am the owner of Faces by Pureness, Inc. And entrepreneurship to me is what led me to myself so I could lead myself to the community and to the world. I am an entrepreneur.
So when we think of entrepreneurship, what comes to mind? For me, I heard earlier, it's a journey. I heard somewhat, it's a struggle. I'd say it's a fight. It's also a new experience. It's also, sometimes you feel like you are not gonna make it. Yeah. You feel like giving up. Mm-hmm. But for me, I think it's one of those things where if I stop, I fail. Yeah. I really fail.
Yep.
You know, they broke up the word fail as first attempt in learning. Yeah. But I think if you completely stop, that's beyond what I just said. So for me, if I do stop, it's just for a moment to kind of recalibrate. And when I'm back on that treadmill, I'm running. Yes. But I'm going to say something that's kind of unorthodox. Sometimes I feel in entrepreneurship, it's like you're running on the treadmill, you're sweating, but you know, with a treadmill, you're running on it and you're sweating, but you're not
going nowhere.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
So the moment I tell my mind, get off the treadmill and do what you were doing on the treadmill, in real time, I find that the results, they start to come. When you hear on the word entrepreneurship, what comes to mind?
Sometimes I hear, what would you say, alone. We just feel alone. Yeah. We don't know who to turn to, right? And when there's time of question or need, you ask a colleague or, someone like that, and they tend to shun you off. It is what it is, and we all know we're busy, but it can be difficult at times. You go to resources, and then sometimes those don't work out. So there is a definite, as you mentioned earlier, fight. There is a fight that does happen within entrepreneurship, but it's the fight that happens when you've done the fight is just to keep going. And that's the part that makes you that entrepreneurship in totality.
When you think of entrepreneurship, Shirley, Joseph, what comes to mind?
What comes to mind is, I like what you said about the sense of feeling like solo. It's a lot of work. But you know what? It's not work in terms of like the to-do list and everything, right? I feel like it's a lot of work, personal work, like checking in on yourself work. You know what I mean? It's like checking your ego at the door work. It's like, imposter syndrome, trying to kick it out work, Like it's a lot of like internal work. And a lot of like reality checks as well, right? Yeah. It's a lot of like checking in, and making sure that you're not wasting not just your time, but also like being realistic with your time too, right? Because sometimes I've seen this like with entrepreneurs that you do the same thing and you're like, and nothing's happening, right? And it's like you have to be real with yourself. Do I have to pivot? What's missing here? Do I need to include people into my business? Because depending on the type of business that you have, it may need, in order for you to get out of that plateau, is to include other people. Right? And me running a community, I've spoken to content creators who are not just hobbyists, who are actually doing this as a business. And that's the biggest thing. And I'm there right now. It's like the biggest, like, okay, do I have the capacity and in order to include other people into my business? And that's a reality check onto yourself right there.
True.
That's all part of entrepreneurship.
I'm going to expand on the journey thing, but then also add in evolution as well. Going into this entrepreneurship thing with the journey part, it's been able to take us so many places and go anywhere and everywhere. Like, who would have known that, you know, starting something in our basement would take us to Barbados and to New York and all these other spots. And, you know, having the joy of having your own business is, you know, seeing it grow and evolve from like one tiny idea to like something big, and that thing can evolve to be something greater. So I think that's the best thing about being an entrepreneur, is like being on that journey and seeing the evolution of that product, right? So yeah.
There's gonna be times when you just don't feel like getting up and doing the work, but then you're like, okay, but I have bills to pay. I got to support the family and everything, and you just got to keep pushing, because there's going to be times when, like I said, you're not going to feel like doing the podcast, you're not going to feel like getting the taxes done or whatnot, but you're just going to have to figure a way out just to push through that. And I like how you said the evolution. It's like, that's your baby. Your business is your baby, and you're like, no, I'm not gonna fail. I want to see this baby grow into a teen, adult, and like graduate to something else.
Sure.
And that's one thing that keeps me pushing, and just like the community is just wanting to help people, because I know, like, especially in my field, it's trying to help people become financially fit, and when you deal with people with their books, you learn a lot. When you're in accounting, you actually learn a lot, and you're like, wow, there's a lot of people that are like on social media, they're like, yeah, I'm doing amazing, and then you see their books and you're like, Okay. I was like, but you know what? I'm not gonna say I have the six figure and everything, but you have to be mindful of those folks that are presenting themselves as something, and we're all on the same boat. We're all on this journey of trying to push through and not fail, and just keep going, so we can feel good about ourselves. Like, I did this. This was my business. I helped it grow and evolve. That's how I feel.
Fair enough. The one thing I was thinking when you guys were all talking is one thing that I go through, and also Joe, and I think all of you guys do, is the thing is, like, you have a lot of ideas, but you only have so much time to do it. I see, Joe, you're drawing all these characters and doing all this cool stuff on our page, and I have the ideas, but just like you're saying with taxes, this, you might have another thing, and there's so much things piling up, you can't even get to the idea that you're trying to do. And you're like, what the hell? I can't get to that idea. And then you feel like you're going back to what you're saying, wasting time. And like, am I wasting time doing this thing? Like, what am I doing? Yeah. So I see what you're saying, like, all you guys are saying the right stuff, like evolving, learning, growing, understanding. But that's another thing too, as well as yourself as a person trying to understand how to navigate through the information. You can't do so much stuff, because it's sort of the same thing as like watering a plant. You water all the plants at one time, then all of them will grow. So you have to focus on one plant, grow that plant makes more seeds and grows more stuff. But every business you see, they always focus on one thing first, and the next thing they lead on to the next thing. Like, it has to be something that is grounded and everything can connect to that ground.
What was the reason why you started your business?
I'd say the reason why we started Heroes of the World, Mark, was that we were college students and we were like, we need money, man.
For our portfolio.
Yeah, we need money for the portfolio and stuff like that. So it was just one of those things where I was chilling at home, doing this character, Captain Ghana, right? And then Mark came over and he was like, what is this? I'm like, yo, dude, it's Captain Ghana. And then there was an idea, why don't you guys go to Caravana, draw, do some face painting or draw these characters with hats. And we're like, okay, it's okay idea, but it's not our wheelhouse. So I remember Mark leaving our house and coming back, and he was like, yo, wait a minute. That idea of Captain Ghana, why don't we implement it with the Caribbean islands? And then that one idea evolved into Heroes of the World. Right. So essentially we just wanted to make money, but then all of a sudden we created this thing, and people loved it. So we're like, let's just keep on doing it.
I come from a family of entrepreneurship. Like my mother was a seamstress, and she would get like orders from the Bay to do like 30,000 pajamas. And while my dad, and this was all in Montreal, owned a dry cleaning business. Oh. And so he was dry cleaning upstairs while my mom had like, and 3 other seamstresses were like making, the Bay pajamas.
Yeah. Okay,
right? So as a teenager, well, I would say as a tween to early teenager, my summers were taken.
I think you're stuck.
Yeah, I was stuck.
It's done.
I was doing the cash and all that kind of thing, or help with like sometimes, like putting tags on the pajamas with the sewing machine, like whatever. I was the extra hand. Like, I don't know, like it's just seeing my parents doing that. Definitely, I got the entrepreneurship bug.
Oh, there you go.
And so I always wanted, it was always in the back of my mind to always be an entrepreneur, but I just didn't know how or what I wanted to do. And so fast forward, or even like rewind a little bit, when I was a kid, the way I would not play with a Barbie, I would play with those, remember the little cassette players back in the days where your parents would like record to send it to like, my parents are from Haiti. So I used to like take that cassette player and I would take that, I would sneak it, and I would like force my brother to be my host. So whenever he'd see that cassette, he would run. And so I've always had a fascination and love for anything with broadcasting and recording and things like that. And so I went to Humber College, and then I fast forward, didn't go into radio. I didn't feel like moving into like Boomland, some small town, because that's what, back in my days, in order to make it back on radio, because it was very, very gated. So your way to work into broadcasting is you'd have to go to a small little town and move your way back to like a big city like Toronto, Montreal, or Vancouver. I didn't want to do that. I just kind of like, okay, well, I'll just work. And then I won an iPod Nano. I still have it till this day because it
doesn't work.
It does, but the screen doesn't. So I don't know how to like.
Partially works.
It partially works, so I can still play with it. I can still hear sound coming out of it. But that Nano changed my whole life because I was, I've been always a tech person, and I saw this thing called podcast, and I was like, what is that? Right? And I clicked on it, listened to a whole bunch at the time. Podcasting were predominantly hosted by comedians, mostly from the States.
Fair enough.
And so I was like, whoa, this is fascinating. This breaks all the rules of what I've learned in radio broadcasting, like at Humber College. Like, what? You could say that? You could do that? There's no format? Like, you can say whatever you want?
Really well.
And so I started podcasting and fell in love with it. And it was a form of therapy. And it was like, it brought me back to what I love, which is that broadcasting aspect. And at the time when we were doing it, the idea of charging people for your show was like very taboo. Mm-hmm. Like we belonged into this, we were very embraced by the Black community in the States. And we kind of formed our own little group. We called ourselves the Chitlin Circuit. And so, but when I started talking about like, you know what, I I started seeing like, why aren't we making money off of podcasting? If you're gonna buy a Beyonce album, you should buy my episode. You know what I mean? There should be something tacked onto this. People were like, oh no, podcasts will always be free. I was like, why? You know, it's content. It's like a book. It's like music. It's content, right? So through that and building our audience started asking us a lot of questions about podcasting, and that gave us the idea to be like, you know what, maybe we should like build a network, you know, and that's how the Chilmilla Network happened. It was really a collective of audience people, like audience members who've been listening for us for 5 years and said, I want to start a show. Help me. I was like, okay, we'll help you out. You'll be part of the network, and let's see how we can build on this. Let's see if we can build a business on this. You know, kind of like taking the model of record companies, but without like the, you know, the mess of the record company. So that's how it just kind of happened. Like I started because it was one day it just kind of clicked. Like, oh, this is it. This is that entrepreneurship thing that I knew I was always going to be an entrepreneur, but I just didn't know what it was going to be until like realizing. And that's why I say like, you know, have a passion and you know, I even tell my kids like, I don't ask them what you want to be when you grow up. I really talk to them about what is that one thing that you could do every single day, even if you didn't get paid for it, that you love. And they tell me, and I'm like, okay,
stick with that.
Right, let's stick with that. Like my son loves sharks. You know, I know.
Wait, what is that?
My son saw Jaws when he was 7 years old, which I did not want him to watch. But his father said, "You gotta check out this movie." And he saw Jaws, and it changed his life. And he wants to be a diver. Like he wants, like, you know. So that's how I taught my daughter has a natural knack of drawing. Their father does animation. He's been doing it for 20 years.
Oh, wicked.
Oh,
yeah. So
there's your network here.
3D, 2D animation. So she's just a natural born artist, like born with it. And so I always talk to them like, what's that thing that you feel like you're born with? Let's figure out, or that you love, that you have a passion for, and let's figure out on how you can make that a career. You know what I mean? And now I say, let's turn it into a business.
Fair enough.
You know what I mean? Because like maybe you could start off where you're working, like for my son, like you could work on a boat and help a university to do some research, and you're the diver for it, and then eventually you could create a business with it, since grandma and grandpa has land in Haiti.
Okay.
Maybe you could like later have a tour and do like diving
tour
business. So that's my thought process in terms of like finding your passion. I was passionate about podcasting and broadcasting. It was just my natural thing that I love to do. My parents always said I talk too much. So I was like, I'm going to make a business out of it.
There you go.
Yeah, basically, I had always been an artist, always artistic, right? However, I started going to a hairstylist, and she was doing my hair, and she would always say, from up close, your makeup is so amazing. And she was like, you're blending the talent. There's something there. She's like, Elizabeth, pay attention to this talent because I'm not playing with you. And she was very popular at the time, so I took her at heat. I was like, wow, you must be serious. So I started doing makeup on my family and myself and different things, and started artistically figuring things out, taking pictures and figuring it out. And boom, I left my government job. I started saving for, the tools and everything I needed. I registered the business, and 2.2 seconds, I was Faces by Fairness. So, yeah.
Oh.
My why. Shirley, you connected something with me, is that my family is entrepreneurs as well. Like, we had a dry cleaning business.
Yeah.
So I was, getting the cash as well. As soon as you said, I was like, yeah. My grandma was a seamstress as well. And my real passion was my mom and aunt that were accountants. So they studied accounting, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to be just like my mom. And when I finished school, I went to Korea for 2 years teaching ESL, English and everything. And I was like, you know what? I enjoy teaching these kids how to speak a little bit of English. But the one thing I noticed was, okay, this was not my passion. Like actually doing, I kid you not, I was up late in university trying to do a comprehensive financial plan, and I loved it. And I was like, I want to do this. This is amazing. So that's the reason why I came back to Toronto and started Fitness IQ services. I did dabble in payday loans, which I hated because that was like the opposite. I was like, I'm not helping people actually get out of debt. I'm helping them encourage. And it was horrendous. Like, it left a bad part of me. I was just like, I can't do this. So I finally got Fitness IQ services. I did the taxes. I did the bookkeeping because I feel like, well, how am I going to get the people? I was like, so first I had friends that were like, yo, Cam, we're doing a non-for-profit thing. Can you check my books? I was like, absolutely. And then I was like, how am I going to get more people? Oh, let me do their bookkeeping. You guys have all these receipts and you have to do your taxes at the end. Why not, stay organized? Or like the personal folks, they're like, come here, I don't know what to do with my RSPs. I was like, okay, so let me educate you. And that's how it began, just educating folks on like taxes, bookkeeping, and I like to call myself a personal finance trainer. And that's how the fitness comes into it, because I love fitness and finance. I know sometimes people get confused, but I'm more into helping people or educating folks about personal finance. So that's my why. And also, rest in peace to my mom. She was always encouraging me to look out for the kids as well, to help them, educate them about personal finance, because that's how it's going to be able to get up to the stubborn, the baby boomers and
the Gen Z now.
the Gen X and so that's the reason why I started it. And I just keep pushing it. And I have the podcast. I noticed we had a lot of American-based information, and I was like, but we don't have 401ks or Roth IRAs. We have TFSA, like all those stuff. So that was my reason to have the podcast, Things I Wish I Knew About Money, a podcast. So that's another reason why I have that podcast, to educate folks about certain things in personal finance and financial literacy.
So for me, I was tired of giving away to the employer or the employers my talents, my abilities, my gifts, and my skills. Right? So, they say time is expensive. And they're now starting to say that time or life, it's short. Right? So I said, okay, the employer, if you're lucky, will recognize your abilities, probably come to you for a promotion, or have you train somebody, and then have you apply for that exact same job and give it to somebody else.
Case in point.
Or work for the employer for X amount of years.
Oh, there you go.
And somebody new comes in.
There you
they're
go.
getting paid more than you.
There you go.
So what I'm saying is not taking a shot to the employer, because they're going to do what's in the better interest for them.
Yep.
Whenever I jumped in my car at 5 o'clock, 5:01, my time.
Yep.
So I was driving home, I would always say to myself, if I could do that for them,
why can't I do it?
What can I do for myself? So I said, okay, with the education, or skills, education, and work experience I have, I said, whatever I'm going to learn, if I can master it, I'm going to register a business. So I did that for one business, multiple businesses. But I'm not trying to hit my chest to say, rah, 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 I got multiple businesses. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is I think we need to pat ourselves on the back more often than the employer's doing it. Because sometimes when the employer's doing it, I feel, in my opinion, they're trying to chain to the chair.
Good job.
So try running with a chair tied to your left or right leg. You're not running fast. I know that doesn't sound pretty. Right? So for me, why I started, it's just that I wanted to do what I wanted to do for who I wanted to do it for. So that's why I started, right? So that's my answer.
Fair enough.
So how do you guys start a brand new year?
I start this year almost how I start every year, which is just differently. Even if one year reads certain successes, I still feel like starting the year afresh, much like some people use resolutions to some degree, that can still manifest itself very well in business as well. And every business is different, of course. But for myself, I find starting each year differently gives a new perspective. It gives me time to kind of reflect on what I've done in the past and multiply it. And just walk in a different light, respectfully. So this year, like you said, I'm working with groups. I'm working wider, and I think that's also a way in my business that's also working smarter. So yeah, that's what 2024 is, just kind of expanding myself beyond myself and my business and my reach.
I'm in the same boat too. I'm all about collaboration and utilizing talents. Like, what's your talent? What's my talent? And how do we merge it together, right? And it's almost like you mentioned about the employer, but that's what employers do, right? They utilize our talents. And so, so it's really breaking away from that silo approach, and it's like, what is your zone of genius? And also, this is something I'm finding that's, I've started planting this seed, I'd say, the last 6 months in 2023, and it's starting to kind of bloom a little bit. I'm seeing it, and it's really being forthright and honest in terms of that conversation. You have a genius. Here's my zone of genius, and I know that's what I'm weak. Here's my zone, like my weaknesses, but I see a strength. There's something in what you're doing that can give me strength and kind of equalize these kind of, weaknesses. So
let's build together.
Let's build together, because I know my strength is this and your strength is that. So how do we combine that in order to build like something sustainable, something beautiful, something new? And so that's the avenue that I'm at this year.
I'll just say, like, how we wanna start off 2024 is just, think of what's next. We always think about what's next, right? What's the next thing that Heroes of the World can do, and what's another thing? What are things that Hot W Studios can do, right? So
That's also connecting.
which is also connected. So we're just trying to like see exactly what projects we could take on as Hot W Studios, and then as Heroes of the World, what things that are coming up next. I know there are some things that are ruminating right now. We can't really talk about them, but no, we're just sitting in that. And then what I always find important, I don't know, is just checking in with your peoples, checking in,
Support.
yeah, see how everybody's doing. I know we try and have meetings every now and then and like see where everybody's at. So I think more of that for 2024. So yeah.
This new year, I want to do more collaborations as well. I know I sound like a broken record because everyone has said it. But with my business, it's better to work together than separate, because I have a lot of hats, and I'm only one person, so I can't do it all. So I do want to do more collaborations with like other organizations, and the tax season's about to come up.
Yeah. Oh dear
So,
That's what I said when I looked at my
I know, I was like, this is nonsense.
so for me, the year really starts like mid-February, and that's when I just buckle down, and I'm like a zombie.
I'm worried.
Like it's crazy. Like last year I had to do like with a company and my business, and I was like, oh my god, I don't know how I'm gonna be able to do this, but now I'm prepared enough to do it, so I'm like, all right, well when the time comes, I just gotta get it done. So that's just being prepared to know what to expect in the new year, and then just hope for the best and no fallen soldiers and everything.
Every year there's some new thing coming up, and you already know the new thing that's here. There's always new things. I have a lot of new. I'm a guy that I'm in the rabbit hole somewhat, because every single time when we do Heroes of the World stuff, I'm always learning new things because we have to research about the world. So I'm always ahead to trying to figure out what the heck's going on in the world so we can put in the world. That's another thing too, working with people, and also because you already know the big corporations and companies are using these tools. That's another thing too, is how to use those same tools to work for your business and also work with their business. So you can actually don't fall behind. Don't let the system go and you're like, I'm just gonna sit here now. So how to connect with how to use the tools, like I said again, I know it's a broker thing, but also use the skills of other people. If I know something or you don't know something, we all can learn from each other and figure it out. Yeah. And it's good that I'm here because Joe brought me, I didn't even know about this, but now I met all you guys and understand, and that's another network, right?
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. That's
and the only way you get out, because we're all isolated before, you really can't do anything by yourself. Yeah. I mean, you can, but it only can go so far.
There's a positive side to entrepreneurship, and there's also a negative side to entrepreneurship. The challenges, right?
Yeah.
So how do we handle financial challenges when, let's say, we have a good product, but it's just not moving?
So what we used to do before is we would do like guerrilla marketing. Like we would go to Caravana.
You already know you would.
Yeah, but then we would also go along the parade route and like hand out business cards.
The Raptors Parade.
Raptors Parade. So we would have Mark cosplay as one of the characters, and then we would just have business cards and just hand them out to people. I remember years ago we went to Young and Dundas and did that type of thing, which was really, really dope. So it's just when you see those sales decline, just think of ways to market, whether it be guerrilla, whether it be social media. Facebook ads, Insta ads is like a really awesome tool. Because people everyone's on Instagram. People are obviously always scrolling and seeing your stuff. So I think that's another thing too. Also, I find it's always good to like lean towards your market. I feel like we go to places and try and sell to people that wouldn't really jive with this stuff or gravitate towards this stuff, right? So lean towards the people that, for our example too, lean toward people that are comic book fans. Go to the comic convention, go to the gaming studio, the gaming conventions and whatnot.
Hang out in front of EB Games.
Take your stuff and mix it with something that they love.
Yeah.
That way you get them on your side, right? So
that's where
we're all entrepreneurs here. There's no doubt about that. But we have a younger generation that's coming behind us or beside us or in front of us. What can you say that will encourage that young man, that young woman, that young individual about what you do right now? Especially if they're interested in doing cartoon illustration, content creation, makeup, accounting. I mean, this goes on and on and on.
I would say for sure is don't forget about the old school ways. They still work today. Like pounding pavement really does still work. Like one of my old school ways I used to do was going to the laundromats and putting up my thing with the pull number. Now I don't do that exact anymore, but putting my cards there or putting my cards at the beauty supply stores. I put all my flyers in the West Indian stores. At the time I felt that was my market. Now I'm putting them in the bridal stores. I'm going to the high-end luxury stores. Those things still work today. You don't only go online. That's such a great implement and added bonus, but the business person that sees you walk in the door with your suit on and your briefcase, that's priceless. That's priceless. They will be the person to say, hey, there's this business card over here. This lady came in. She looked like she was business.
Presentation is key.
Exactly. So that has always, over anything else, has been one of the things, other than word of mouth, has been one of the things. So I just want anybody entering entrepreneurship to remember that online and social and ads virtually can help you. But remember to bring yourself forward and do that too. So that's just what I'm saying.
Doing things like this is
That's
super important.
Yeah.
Right? But it's also being smart and strategic on, as a content creator, because our business is mainly online, it's like, if I'm going to do something like this, it has to make sense.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like last year, I went to a lot of events, and I'm like, I don't think I'm going to go to that event anymore because it just doesn't align and it doesn't make sense for me, because it's very super entrepreneur focused and really don't even think about like the creators who are making a business out of it, right? But in a way, what's different, like when you're saying like hitting the pavement, my pavement online is to do a live show. That's my form of pavement, right? Or even like making sure that the quality of my podcast is like almost like NPR radio, right? And this is the reason why we built the Chonilla Network, is because people were like, man, your sound is butter. How do I get to this level? And you guys are just starting, right? So as a content creator, it's being the example in order to get leads, right? So if you're the example in terms of like your like, you know what I mean? Like things like this, the visual looks good, the sound looks good, the content is smart, you've put time into a scripting. It's not just like getting your phone up and, you know what I mean, or getting your mic on. It's really being conscious on the level, like almost like I have to be the Disney of my podcast has to sound like it's produced by Disney. I'm just using
Fair
an
enough.
example.
No,
But you know what I mean? Or it's almost like Spotify produced my show. So the content itself is being that major example of quality, which will bring leads in order for me to build my business.
I just wanted to add to that, and I agree completely with what you said, but there is still that facet of, there are content creators that I know that have hit the millions, and they still are going to the, say if it's a beauty, person, they're still going to the beauty cons, they're still putting themselves out there, or they're collaborating with people who are still putting themselves out there physically.
So, and that's what I was saying, like,
and
if
that's why
I do things like this, it has to be, it has to
make sense.
It has to be, I'm not going to put myself, my content is a comedy show, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to go to a car show.
Right.
When my podcast is not about cars.
Yeah.
So
Funny
it's like,
enough
I
you
can
say
still
that,
put me out, like you're saying, like, do
Yeah.
exactly that.
Yeah.
But I feel like as content creators, you have to be conscious about it too.
And I think that's for any
It has to
business,
be
respectfully.
No, that's true.
Yeah. Okay.
But being a marketer, and I've marketed different things, products, services, you need the online and you need the offline.
I agree with that. Yeah.
You need
You need both, and sometimes I find myself in spaces that I really shouldn't be in.
But you're still there.
But I'm just still there because I'm curious. I want to know what's going on over here.
True.
But does it really relate to what I'm doing? Absolutely.
No.
But I think the more you stay within that line with what you do, there should be some fruits to your labor.
We live in a world, they both exist. We have to utilize them.
Yes, 100%.
For everybody here, there is a thing coming up with our business managers called Black Diamond Ball.
Black Diamond Ball, yes.
And that's a good networking area.
Black
Diamond Ball.
Black Diamond Ball.
Okay.
And it's for Black History Month. It's coming up, and our business manager, which owns the business, he has a networking area there. And even Heroes of the World is not a Black Diamond Ball thing. Like you said about we going in a weird place. Our stuff is not made for that, but we're still there because it still has maybe someone might like, hey, that's my flag I like. Yes, we still go, like you said, offline, online.
I think going back to the youths, and I know with all the industries that have spoke are a little bit different, but like with accounting, you kind of have to still go to do that education to still be able to have that designation. So like whether it's bookkeeping, CFP, CPA, there's going to be some youths that still have to go down that path of kind of being an employee until they're able to branch off
And understand what they're doing.
Yeah. And then I don't even want to forget so a lot of parents, especially the baby boomers, Gen X, Gen X, always think about lawyer, doctor, accountants.
Right.
We still have to be mindful of the blue collars. There's the mechanics, the plumbers, the HVACs. Like, you gotta think about the streets. kind of making more money now.
Yeah,
Especially
they made it in South Park.
So it's like you still want to have that structure. I think the main thing is having that structure and being disciplined.
Right, 100%.
Having that discipline to be focused on whichever career you want to branch off, and then becoming an entrepreneur once you have the experience and credentials.
True.
And that's the one thing about this world is you still have to show those credentials to show that, like, I have a good head on my shoulders. I'm able to be able to do what I need.
Yeah.
And
One last thing for the youth is do not stop learning.
Yep.
Learn everything and anything that pertains to your field that doesn't pertain to your field, because it never stops, right? And new things, and like you were saying before, Mark, and everybody else, new things come out every year. Every year there's something new, so you got to learn. You got to keep your skills sharp.
What's one word that would best support what your business does
I have one.
for its intended target audience?
Yeah. For us, the Chonilla Network, collective, right? Collective in creativity, collective in community, collective is what we always encompass. That's our big word when it comes to the Chonilla Network.
Wow. With our comic book series, our characters, they have a battle cry called Superheroes Unite. So from Unite is unity. So we want to evoke, with heroes, we want to evoke unity. Have a product that brings people together.
I'm going to say educate. The thing with Fitness IQ services is educating folks, because I'm providing the tools, because once I'm gone, or it's, a different country or whatever, you still have that knowledge that I educated you with to be able to keep going.
Right.
And that's the most important thing, is having that knowledge.
Nice.
And education.
Okay, multiplying. Because my business has been multiplying. I've been multiplying because of my own journey, and everything has multiplied because of it. So, yeah, multiplying.
Mostly for ours too as well is knowledge. Learning about the people of the world, understanding each other, but knowledge. So.
One word.
Uh-oh.
Frequency.
This was cheating. You already knew.
My name is Joseph Bonsu. I am an illustrator and co-founder of Heroes of the World and Hot W Studios, along with Mark Williams, and I am an entrepreneur.
My name is Shirley Joseph. I am a podcast producer and digital community builder. And the company is called the Chonilla Network Podcast Collective. And I am an entrepreneur.
My name is Elizabeth Taylor. I am the owner of Faces by Pureness, Inc., and I am an entrepreneur.
My name is Camille Smith. I am the owner of Fitness IQ Services, personal finance trainer, and I am an entrepreneur.
There you go. My name is Mark Williams. I'm a freelance artist. I own, co-founder with Jose Bonsu, Heroes of the World and Hot W Studios, and I am an entrepreneur.
My name is Christopher Lawrence from Frequency Event Promotions, and we've actually developed I Am an Entrepreneur that started back in 2017, and I am an entrepreneur. That I am. Thank you.
I Am an Entrepreneur Podcast. FrequencyEventPromotions.com. It's all about the customer and services. FrequencyEventPromotions.com. 647-317-2170. Extension 1.
I Am an Entrepreneur, a podcast show series hosted by executive producer Christopher Lawrence.